Installment of the Boardroom webinar series for 2021. We're so happy you are all with us. Nancy looked in the catalog a little bit earlier and saw that there were 75 registrations. So we are tickled about that. We're glad you're here. I'm Bonnie McEwen with the Northwest District Office of the State Library, and I'm joined by Nancy Medema, who's the Program Director in Des Moines, and also my colleague Jay Peterson, who is my counterpart as consultant with the North Central District. He's behind the scenes answering the doorbell and recording our session and doing all kinds of technical behind the scenes things. Let me bring forward our slides that we will use tonight.
Welcome, everybody. I'm just going to do a quick housekeeping thing before we get started and hope my voice doesn't give out on me tonight. If you're in a group with more than one person in a room, if you would put in chat who you are, where you're from, and how many people are in your room, we would love that so that we can get a good counting of attendance tonight.
All right, so let me show you the agenda. This will point the way to where we're headed. The material for tonight's Boardroom webinar is based on the book Inspiring Library Stories. And that actually is based on another webinar series that we do called Big Ideas Book Discussions. So we'll be talking about the impact stories that your libraries surely have to share. It's about gathering those stories. It's about how to tell those stories and maybe the role that library trustees can play in the storytelling process. That's where we're headed, and that was our entire intention until Nancy and I thought that this would be a really good opportunity, and we want to do this right up front before you all log off for the evening. We want to do this right up front, and we want to just borrow some of our time from the webinar to talk with you about an inspiring library grant story that we hope you will all take advantage of at your libraries. You probably have heard by now, if you've gone through your May board meetings, that the State Library is wrangling some really impressive grants right now. We call them the ARPA grants. We hope all of your libraries will take advantage. And because we have this audience of board members, we wanted to share more information with you. So I'll send it over to Nancy, and she'll take about 10 minutes or so of our time together to talk with you about these ARPA grants. And if there's time remaining at the end of the program, we can certainly circle back to any specific questions you might have.
Of course we can. So hi, everybody. Welcome tonight. I guess I did want to say this is kind of the second webinar we've done on storytelling. So hopefully you get the idea that this is an important part of being a trustee. Do you want to go ahead and flip the slide, Bonnie? I don't know if I can as co-host, actually. So the ARPA program, what is it? The ARPA stands for the American Rescue Plan Act, which Congress passed in March. And part of $200 million of that grant went to state library agencies around the country on a formula basis. Iowa got $2.68 million. And of that, we have set aside $1.8 million for right now to do subgrants to Iowa's libraries. Congress's intent with this money was to have a quick impact in response to the coronavirus. So they wanted this money spent quickly, and they wanted it to have a positive impact on your communities as you go back to reopening and trying to get life a bit back to normal across the state. So these grants have kind of a short turnaround time, but I think it's still plenty in order to get done what we're asking our libraries to do. The Institute for Museum and Library Services, who the state library gets their federal funds through, came up with the priorities of how this money can be spent. And that is, it has to respond to the pandemic in the areas of digital inclusion, especially along the lines of homework help and workforce development, because those are the two areas they saw impacted the most in communities, and towards pandemic relief. So trying to respond and get over results of the pandemic. So how are we using it? As I said, we set aside $1.8 million, and we're doing them in what we call formula grants, which means we figured out the amount of money eligible for the libraries and all the parameters around that. So the way it currently stands is any library that has a tier status of 1, 2, or 3 is eligible to apply for these grants of up to $5,000. And to use that money towards what those 3 priorities are. So we developed a list of items that are allowable with this money, and we did a lot of brainstorming to do that. And this is all on our website, so you can check it out at statelibraryofiowa.org. And it's actually, there's a link to it right on the front website under one of the announcements. So you can peruse this list to kind of jog your imagination. You can think about what your library needs with this $5,000. I am going to encourage you to update technology, make your your internet access accessible outside your building. Projects like that are really important during this time, making that digital access more common. And we all know in Iowa, we struggle with that anyway across the state, because our broadband accessibility is extremely low in Iowa. And that's true in big cities as much as it is in the rural part of the state. I'm trying to think, this is on a reimbursement basis. So libraries would spend the money up front and then submit a reimbursement request to us, and we will get that paid. Any library who applies for a project that fits the parameters of the grant as laid out on our website will be approved for the grant. We have a timeline right now of all applications are due by July 2nd. We will have all of the signed agreements back no later than July 30th, although we are filling those out and getting them approved and the agreement sent back for signing as soon as we receive them. Some libraries, I'm sure, received their agreements today. And so if you wanted to do a project yet this fiscal year, you could, but you can also wait until July 1st and start a project after the new fiscal year starts too. All funds need to be spent by January 31st. So that gives you a good 6 to 7 months to do the purchasing of whatever it is you're trying to do. And then you have until April 29th to request reimbursement and to write your final report. A lot of that information is on the website. The application is on, or the link to the application is on the website. All of the process for handling these grants will be done through DocuSign. So you apply online, we send it back to you, you sign online, it gets sent back to us. And then we will send you a final copy of your signed agreement. And that is the point that you can start spending money. So there are some guidelines you have to watch for with those dates. Let me think, what else? The list of allowable purchases is really long. I think somebody said there's 60 some items on there, and they do indicate whether SIPA compliance is required. So anything that connects to the internet must be SIPA compliant because these are federal funds. But that's indicated, and there's plenty of things that don't. If that's an issue for your library and you don't want to follow that compliance and have to worry about that, that's not a problem. I am going to encourage you. I was in some Marianne's office hours today, and so some of you may have hear me say this twice now today. I am going to encourage you to think big and use all of that $5,000. We do not want to send any money back to the federal government at the end of this program. And look around your library and think about what you need that might be on that list. So it can be more than one project, so to speak. You can replace some computers, you can do some pandemic relief things by changing a meeting room area. You can update your meeting room technology. You could add a seating area outside that maybe has a charging station or a bench or seating that has charging in it for devices. You can do all kinds of things. Story walks are a real popular idea this spring. And so there's some great ideas out there. Get creative. You can partner with other libraries and do a bigger project where each library would get the $5,000. So if you had 6 libraries in a county that wanted to go together on a big project that you can all partake in, you would get, you could potentially get up to $30,000. So again, you could think big. There are a couple things that are not allowed, and construction is one thing that cannot be paid for with these funds. So if you wanted to put a story walk in and you buy the metal posts, you can purchase the posts and the books to go in them. You cannot install them into the ground with these funds. So that's a good time to hit up your friends or foundation or ask your city for some additional funding that could pay for the installation aspect, but matching funds is not required for this money. The other thing you can't purchase with it, and this kind of gets to be a gray line sometimes, is furniture. However, if it is part of a bigger project and you need that furniture to finish that project, then it's allowable. So for example, if you wanted to make a computer lab and you needed new furnishing to do that, so new carrels or new desks or something so that you could have them more socially distanced, whatever, you could purchase those carrels, and obviously you would need seats in order to make that functional. So then that purchase of those seats and those carrels is acceptable. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me or call me. I am happy to talk through anything with you and give you an idea if it's allowable or not. So get thinking, get creative, encourage, if you're a trustee and your librarians are not with you, encourage them to take advantage of this, help them brainstorm what might be needed. But please take advantage. I'm begging you at this point, take advantage. We really want to spend all this money. And thanks for letting us talk about it. We're very excited this opportunity exists because the state library exists to help make your lives easier in libraries across the state. And this is a good way to do that. So, okay, I'm done.
All right.
But if anybody has any questions later, I am more than happy to answer them.
Yeah, for sure. There may be time remaining at the end of the program tonight. So as you're thinking about this and you have maybe specific questions, we will be sure to stay on the Zoom call as long as needed to answer those questions. But a lot of it is answered on this page on our website that you see right now on the slide. So thank you for indulging us in this. We thought it was too good an opportunity to miss, to have this many trustees in the audience. We wanted to make sure that you were well aware and well informed about this grant opportunity.
Well, and I will say one more, I'll add something to this, is you as a trustee have a really good understanding of the community and what that community might need. So your input on some of this could be really, really valuable, especially if the library is struggling to come up with a good idea. And some of it depends on what they have the capacity to do and not, but we're happy to, encourage you, encourage them, talk problems through. We're happy to do that.
All right. With that commercial message, we will move into the material for tonight. But first, I guess this is another commercial message to remind you of these two publications from the State Library. On the left, you see the brand spanking new Iowa Library Trustees Handbook, which was published in January of this year. So we're really pleased with this new version. It is up on our website in its entirety, as is the publication on the right side of the slide. In Service to Iowa is the booklet that describes public library standards. So I include these in the Boardroom webinar every time because they're just such important resources for you to know about and to be sure to refer back to, because they could certainly provide even some more in-depth information on the topics that we talk about in the Boardroom. I mentioned that tonight's installment is based on the book Inspiring Library Stories, and that's based on this other webinar series that we offer, also quarterly, called Big Ideas Book Discussions. We choose in this webinar series, we choose books outside of library management, but we apply the ideas and the concepts to life in library land. So we use books on workplace relationship and public speaking, technology, leadership, and we discuss those connections with library service. So these are real-time discussions that also lead to good nonfiction purchases for your local library collections, we believe. And these titles that we use in these book discussions are also good choices for your local book discussion groups. So with the Boardroom series, we're getting even more mileage out of the conversations we have about these books. Now, I know that the Big Ideas Book Discussion series is daytime programming, so that might be harder for some of you trustees to attend, but just know that you're certainly welcome. If you're able to join us at any of those conversations, we'd love to have you there too. Tonight, we'll talk about the connections with Inspiring Library Stories by Oleg Kagen. And I should have said also that with the Boardroom series, there really is no expectation that any of you read these books ahead of the webinars. Not in this series. There's definitely an expectation that people come to the book discussions. Definitely those people are supposed to be reading the book. But for all of you who are board members joining us in this series, not so much. We hope that if you've been inspired by any of these books that we've shared the material from, that you'll want to order a copy or two for your libraries. Let me tell you just a bit about Oleg Kagen. He is an author, he is a speaker, and he's actually a librarian. He has worked in libraries in the Los Angeles area and is currently coordinating community engagement activities in the Los Angeles area. He writes for Every Library magazine. He is on the advisory board of Every Library. And I mention that because I want to mention the connection to Every Library. If you've not heard of this organization, it really is an important one. And this would be a good website for you all as board members to explore when you have some time and when you have the inclination. Go to everylibrary.org. This is really a national organization that helps build voter support for libraries all across the country. And this is voter support for those occasions when libraries have ballot issues that are coming up, that they need their cities and towns to vote yes on a ballot measure, whether it's a new library building or some kind of a capital campaign. The staff at everylibrary.org can help with those efforts. So it's very much an advocacy campaign. And the reason that Nancy and I were really sparked by this book, Inspiring Library Stories, is because this past winter, we learned that the folks at Every Library were launching this awareness campaign that they called One Book, One Congress. And their idea was, what if every member of Congress read the same book at the same time? And what if that book was about libraries? Wouldn't that be cool? And what if that book about libraries was this very one we're going to talk about tonight, Inspiring Library Stories. So this One Book, One Congress campaign sought donations through the website. For every $20 donated, everylibrary.org would send a copy of this book to a member of Congress. Now, it would also be equally cool if you've gotten a hold of this book and you yourself have enjoyed it. We talked about this in the book discussion just last week. Wouldn't it be cool if you could afford, or maybe your friends group could afford, to buy multiple copies of this book and give one to every town council member, every city council member, or county supervisor? Now, I will tell you, in all fact checking fairness here, this book has become kind of scarce to get a hold of. And we think it's because of the One Book, One Congress campaign. It could also be because this is from a very small press publisher in California, and they just in late March kind of ran out of their stockpile. Nancy and I both acquired our copies on Amazon, and I heard of several other libraries that got them on Amazon, but since then they haven't been available there. Now you can go to the publisher's website, and you can find a place to order directly from the publisher.
And they were supposed to be ready in June, correct?
Yeah, they're supposed to ship in June, right? Yeah, so if you haven't acquired your copy yet, just know that they might be scarce, but you can stick with it and you can probably find one.
So Bonnie and I, over our years working here, have garnered some really inspiring stories as we travel around the state and visit libraries. And we're ready to share a few of those with you tonight. But we also want to hear from you about what your stories are to add to our collection. And then we can tell your inspiring stories as we do some of these webinars and talk to other libraries to inspire them. So if you have something inspiring to share right off the bat tonight, please feel free to do so. You can use your mics, you can put your story in chat. I'm going to wait here just a minute and see if anybody has anything. But think of those stories that happen in your library that pull your heartstrings. Those are the ones that, when you share, inspire other people's to take action or make a change that benefits their library and their town. And I know amazing things are happening in this state in public libraries. So it's always wonderful to share those amazing things with others. So can anybody think of anything? Well, as you're thinking, please don't hesitate to put stuff in chat, but we'll go ahead and move on to some of our next slides, and maybe it will spark some of your memories.
These will be good. I know that there are good conversations happening in the rooms where you're having watch parties. So these are all good questions that you can be talking about there in your own boardrooms, in your physical boardrooms. We have some pretty good impact stories that we want to share with you. And here is a great one. This is such a good impact story because it's about a library creating a very unique community space. You see here pictures of a music garden at Lorenz. Through the Lorenz Library Foundation and through local fundraising, Lorenz Public Library installed a music garden about a year ago in the green space outside the library. And all told, Glenda tells us, Glenda Mulder is the director of the Lorenz Public Library. She joined us actually as a co-host in our book discussion last Friday. Glenda shared that the town raised $34,000 for this project in less than 1 year. That's impressive to me. That's an impactful story. I think it says a lot about community support and successful fundraising. It speaks to music appreciation for sure. That's Glenda there in the middle photo. And look at the little ones surrounding these musical instruments that are outside. It's something so creative, and it's creating something for Lorenz, I think, that is so individually branded with that library now that people say, Lorenz, that's the library with the music garden. So we love this.
I need to go see it now that it's complete.
Now that it's complete, it was a couple years in the making and in the building of it. But here you see a wider shot of all of the musical instruments, and there are benches there as well for people to sit and enjoy. And I don't know if the photo shows it very well, but there's actually a charging station. That's that tall black pillar you see in about the middle of the photo. This is the finished look. This is their outdoor space. And so the charging station, I think, was just the perfect addition to an outdoor space for people to charge their own devices. So in addition to this being about community support and successful fundraising and music appreciation, it's also about wireless internet access and how significant that has been all last year during the pandemic for people to be able to use their public library before, during, and after hours to be able to access the library's wireless internet.
And I'm going to inject just a second here, Bonnie.
Yeah.
Not everybody has a beautiful outdoor space like Lorenz does, but if you do, maybe this is something you want to consider even doing a part of to bring your community, give your community another reason to come to your library space. Or maybe you could do it in a local park that's not real far from you, to take the library out into the community and kind of spread that just a little bit more too. Just get a little creative with how you could do this. This is such a cool idea. I'm really excited to go see the finished product.
It really is, and it's really unique. But this is a growing trend, and I have some photos coming up of some more outdoor spaces that our Iowa libraries are creating. This is a growing trend. But I think too, what a cool backdrop, right? Should the library do any outdoor programming that's not necessarily musically related, but what if it's some children's programming or adult programming that they want to move outside? So this is a favorite, and I love this story. Also, this comes to us from Cherokee Public Library. This is a nice community impact story. Tyler Hahn is the director at Cherokee Public Library, and he posted on Library Talk just last month about an idea that the library staff came up with. They were in meetings with other community groups and organizations, and they had always known about Meals on Wheels and that there were people in their community who take advantage of Meals on Wheels delivery. They learned that the Meals on Wheels were delivered once a week. I think that's pretty typical for that program. The library staff learned that the meals were delivered on Mondays. And so Tyler wrote this on Library Talk and shared it with the library community. Tyler wrote, "The library and trustees saw a need to serve this population receiving Meals on Wheels, to serve this population and provide another day of someone checking in on these same clients. So the library began offering 1 day a week, guaranteed homebound delivery service. They put their homebound service later in the week. So now homebound clients and Meals on Wheels clients have some sort of human interaction at least twice a week now. I think that is a lovely story about the involvement that library staff can have in the community.
That's awesome. Definitely filling a need of some of the residents within your community.
Yeah, and look at what the pandemic did last year in terms of how isolating that was and how lonely so many people felt. And I just thought that was a really wonderful way for the library to be out of the building and become such an integral part of people's lives.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a great story.
I mentioned these outdoor spaces, and this could be one of the rare upsides to last year's pandemic, is that libraries created outdoor gathering spaces. And this really has become very trendy. You see Polk City Library at the left. The Friends Group of Polk City Library partnered with a local business to launch a fundraiser, and this happened just a few months ago. And the result is this beautiful pergola and outdoor seating area. And the library staff goes on to say that this is where the coffee groups gather, book clubs, and more groups who meet there in lovely weather for the foreseeable future. And the photo you see on the right comes from Adele Public Library. They call this their book balcony. I love that. And the library staff writes that they stole this idea from Polk City, so it's all fair. At Adele, they also use their friends group and their foundation to help build this book balcony.
But this
Both,
could be done with ARPA funds too. Just a hint there. You could do
yes,
something. You couldn't attach it to the ground. You would have to use your own funds for that. But building a space like
right.
this, especially if you had charging stations or Wi-Fi access, would definitely be something you could do. These are beautiful.
Wow.
Just beautiful.
Now, here's another impact story that has to do with employment.
So we all know during the pandemic that we had so many people unemployed because businesses just let people go because they had to close, or there just weren't the people out and about doing things. And libraries are notoriously good at helping people apply for jobs, write resumes, set up email accounts if they've never had one before, because now most jobs you have to do online. And so here's another nice, inspiring story from the Lorenz Public Library. Glenda shared this with us last week. And a year ago, November, the state library started doing delivery service to all 544 public libraries 1 day a week. And the company we partnered with put out ads all over Iowa asking for drivers for this delivery service. This gentleman came into the Lorenz Public Library. He had heard about the opportunity, but did not have a computer at home, and asked for help applying for this job. So the wonderful people at Lorenz sat down and did some one-on-one training with him and helped him fill out that application. And he came back and said he got the job, and he is now their delivery driver, who they appreciate every week, that helps them move their items around the state for interlibrary loan and open access. And it's just, to me, that's just a feel-good story of the great impact. So many times when libraries help people apply for jobs, they don't know whether it was successful or not, because you don't necessarily see those patrons again.
Right.
And in this case, he's coming now to the library once a week. They have now helped a person become a lifelong library supporter, because he understands how important library service can be in someone's life, because it was life-changing in his. So I just think that's a great, inspiring story. See, it can be something little that you do that has a huge impact to somebody in your community.
Absolutely. It's an inspiring story. It's a great outcome story.
Yes.
I really like that observation, Nancy, is that so often what happens in libraries, the interactions that our staff have every day, practically.
Over and over.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. You guys know what you're doing, but does the larger community know what you're doing? Does your city council know and appreciate what you're doing? Or your county supervisors? You all know what you're doing, but I think our urgency in this webinar is to make sure that you're documenting stories just like this, so that you can share this story of Jason, the Iowa Shares driver, and how this interaction with his public library changed his changed his life for the better. These are those kind of stories that I think are so worthwhile sharing. But I sometimes think that we maybe forget to do that because these are such routine interactions that we have for us in library land, but they're not routine stories for people to hear who don't have this kind of insider knowledge about libraries.
And if nothing else, it's letting you know that what you do matters. You know, you may not get that end result and you may never know the outcome of something, but what you're doing on a daily basis matters. And I don't know about you, but that makes me feel good about my chosen career.
I want to pause to see if some stories have come through from the audience
I
members
have
in
not
chat.
seen anything yet.
So be thinking, because we want you to share yours. All right. Well, in amongst the chapters of Inspiring Library Stories, which, by the way, the author collected about, I think he said 45 stories from libraries, large and small, all across the country, which is what makes up the bulk of the book. And the bulk of it, it's not a big book by any means. It's a really short, easy read. But interspersed amongst these feel-good library stories are some essays that the author has written. And one of the essays in the book, it was absolutely my favorite. The essay was called "Libraries Are Not Free, and They're Worth Every Dollar." The author goes on to say that taxes are an investment in the whole society, and libraries are the perfect example of how taxes are a smart investment. This was my favorite chapter because it kind of felt like I helped write it, actually. we've done so many workshops and webinars about how libraries are funded. It's included in our new endorsement program. It's included in board orientations that I do and that my colleagues do at the district offices. I even have a workshop that I created some years ago called City Library City Service that I feel I've taken around the globe. And in City Library City Service, we talk about this very thing, how libraries are a community investment. And we also talk about why people still have this connection to public libraries or being free. It's a mixed message. We won't go down that trail tonight just because of time, but I think it does remain a problem for us in library land, those of us who are library consultants and trainers, and those of you who we know are all library advocates. It does become a problem that this is not very well understood, that city libraries are a city service and funded through city property taxes, right? And the people who should best understand this are our funding bodies, like the city councils and county supervisors, and the people who should best understand this are the taxpayers themselves. So I believe there's really a taxpayer education gap here in kind of sending this message. I think it's one that bears repeating and has to be often told to people. Libraries are not free, as this essay says, and they're worth every dollar. So while there is a education gap for taxpayers, maybe that also tells us that there is an education opportunity also. So I have some ideas for you that I'd like you to think about. You've all seen this photo a time, or this sign, or this scene. You've seen this a time or two in your travels. You have seen these road construction signs all over, and now that it's spring, they're everywhere. I don't think I can go down a city street in Sioux City without having to make a detour around orange cones and construction signs. But how often we have seen this and driven through it, and we often will see a sign somewhere on the scene that says, "Your tax dollars at work." That's fair to say because it's true. Why don't we ever say that about libraries? So this is my idea for you. And if any of you have done this, because this isn't the first time I've touted this idea, maybe some of you have heard this before. I wouldn't be surprised. This could mean that I need more original ideas, but nevertheless, I'm going to share this again. What if we used that phrase, your tax dollars at work, and we planted a yard sign in front of public libraries on occasion? Maybe during National Library Week in April would be a swell time to do it. Maybe in the fall, as you're prepping for the next budget cycle, would be a swell time to do it. How cool would it be if once in a blue moon you were to plant a yard sign in your library's front lawn that reads your tax dollars at work? Now, granted, these are some lovely libraries from around the state. We have Sutherland and Independence and Sibley. And granted, what you see there on the slide is an old-timey way of thinking about this kind of message that dawned on me after I plopped that clip art on the slide. It dawned on me, that's kind of an old-timey way to message this. So what if you used the same wording, your tax dollars at work, as a scrolling message on a digital sign inside or outside the library? Let us know, if you would, if any of you have those digital signboards that you're using inside or outside the building. And also, you know, we don't need to club people over the over the head with this either. It's not like this is the only message about your library you want to send. It's not the only message to convey. There are plenty of other messages that you could use as on a scrolling digital signboard, and those messages would only be limited by your imagination. So there
And
you
Brenda
go.
just put in chat from Hospers that they did a sign that said, "Thank you for the support during National Library Week," which is
Oh,
a great idea.
super. Yeah, you bet. That is a
It's
great
kind of a
idea.
subliminal message, but they get the point of it. So,
Yep, you bet. And National Library Week is a classic time to do this. Thank you, Brenda. That's great. Well, here's a question for you in your small groups there, in your physical boardrooms and in our virtual boardroom tonight. We wanted you to think about this question. How do you talk about the library as an investment? Do you talk about it? Hospers does. They've shared. I'll pause for a minute for you to think about and share back with us how you talk about the library as an investment.
so while you're thinking about that, we do have a couple things that were shared in chat about
Good.
the inspiring stories. So Orange City has recognized that monarch butterflies are becoming somewhat of an endangered species. And so they have a registered monarch attractive garden with nectar plants and milkweeds, which is what monarchs are drawn to. And the need for adding habitat is being reinforced through adult and youth and adult programs. So wouldn't that be cool? Because through youth programming, they're instilling that love of butterflies and that love of helping nature continue into the youth in Orange City. I think that is very cool, and what a fun way to do it. And at Osage, their director used the drive-up window equipped with a microphone to meet a need in the community during the pandemic. Christmas season, kids and families were not going to be able to talk to their local Santa Claus, telling them what they want for Christmas or getting a jolly Merry Christmas from them or from him. So they arranged for Santa to sit in the window during evening hours to greet the kids, listen to their Christmas wishes, and
That is
gather safely
super.
to get a Santa greeting. What a great idea! That's awesome. The library I used to work at had a drive-up window. All we ever got was, "Can I have fries with that?" But that's a great way to use that resource.
Those are such, and both of those stories, I think, really are intergenerational programming, really.
Oh, yeah, I think so too. And think what fun that person playing Santa had. Oh my gosh, that would have been awesome. And then Elkhorn Public Library did letters to Santa this past Christmas in place of having Santa in person in the library. And then the librarians sent letters back from Santa. Oh, I bet that made your heart feel good too. See, you had an impact on those kids' lives. They might not have tied it directly to the library, but still, you know it was there. And then for the return on investment part, thanks, John, for getting us back on track, is the stats are available on how many dollars each dollar in the library expenditures expand into the community. Yep, that's a great way to show that. And I do think people think things just appear in the library free. that we don't have to purchase things to.
Right, because libraries are free, free.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one. In fact, we've got that's kind of a segue, actually, because I think we have some slide coming up about those return on investment calculators. That might be where we're going next.
I have
but
one more impact story. Hold on.
Yeah, do.
So the Adair Public Library, which is a very small town, has a middle school student that spends lots of his off-school hours at the library using one of their computers. I think every community has that. There's always that kid who loves computers and can't necessarily do it at home. So you impacted his life by providing him that opportunity. You most certainly did. So she goes on to say, when we got a new flat screen TV for our meeting room, he hooked it up to Apple TV for us, which we couldn't do, and he impacted us. So what a nice way to do that both ways. That was certainly and I can't think of the word I want to use.
It's a give back.
Yes, it's a give back.
That's
kumbaya. That's a kumbaya story.
That is good. I think it is important to talk about the library in all of these different ways that we're examining tonight. It really is important, though, also to talk about it as an investment, as a community investment. And, if you think there's a difference talking about library funding, I think you're all accustomed to doing that, certainly at budget time, and then whenever it rolls around that you maybe go to the town council to say, to share what you did as an annual report type of a presentation. So you're familiar with talking about library funding, maybe, and where it comes from and why it's necessary. But to talk about the library as an investment, I think maybe is the next level of storytelling there. So Nancy, I'm not sure who talked about the return on investment calculator, but that's taking us to voila.
I think you did, actually, but
if this is new messaging for you, it could be new messaging for you. In that same chapter I referenced about the library is not free, this data comes from that chapter. So from the book, the average household in the US pays $7.50 a month for their library. That equates to $90 a year.
Think what you spend on Netflix or Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, compared to other spending habits.
Pretty common expenditures in a household.
What does $90 a year get you? Yeah. So the graphic here is a return on investment calculator. It's often referred to as an ROI calculator. And you can do a Google search and you can find a lot of information about ROI calculators, return on investment calculators. A good place to start, if you're not very familiar with this concept, a good place to start is the American Library Association website. They've got a lot of nice background information on this that has been shared by the Minnesota State Library. And they've even put up a calculator that you can yourself goof around with. You can put in the blank box on the left there, you could just make up a number, let's say 5 adult books borrowed or 5 ebooks downloaded through Bridges. You put in the number, the circulation number for items, or if it's programming, for instance, like the number of children's programs you offered or adult story or adult book discussion groups, you put in those numbers and then the calculator gives you back the dollar value of what you would have spent if you would have had to have purchased those same things. It's a very cool thing. And we have since learned, whoever it is in the audience who mentioned this, please chat us back again. I lost track of the name, but we learned last week that Clinton Public Library is using one of these. And it's connected to your library automation system, true?
Oh, right. It prints out on the receipt.
Yeah.
When the patron checks out materials, it tells them how much they saved by getting those materials through the library as opposed to purchasing them. What a great way to just, again, send that message.
Oh, yeah. So there would be a fun project for you.
And John says the same thing at Orange City. Yep, I think it's the same concept, John.
Okay.
It's just, it prints it out on that receipt from your ILS, and it's just a setting. Most ILSs will do that. You just have to have the receipt printer with you to so that your patrons see that tangible result.
And tuck it inside the books they've checked out. Well, here's another way to message the fact that libraries are not free. It doesn't get more simple than this. This is a simple declarative sentence that I've always appreciated seeing Sioux City Public Library put forward on their website. You can see the line that's circled there at the bottom of the slide. Sioux City Public Library is funded through city property tax dollars. That one declarative sentence helps send that message about library funding, about the fact that libraries are not free, the fact that libraries are a community investment. And, you know, not everybody is going to see this on the library's website, but I don't care. I think it's a cool line to have very visible and front and center. So I love that example. And this we just learned about in this very month's issue of Cityscape magazine, which is the magazine that's published by the Iowa League of Cities. There comes this story about the town of Elma, Iowa, and Elma Public Library is featured very prominently in this article. We know that libraries are one of many city services, but anytime we see that a city library is featured, we're happy, we take note of that. And this really is an inspiring story about the good that comes from community relationships, from community partnerships, and from coordinated community planning. Elma is a town of 550 population. The article says that the town has made inspiring progress. That's their phrase, inspiring progress in renovating and revitalizing its city services, including the city library, the city hall, and community center. The article goes on to say that Elma is an example of what a research team calls a rural, shrink-smart community, where residents have focused with positive results on initiatives to improve quality of life. And I have to admit that I had never heard of this project in Iowa called Rural Shrink Smart. I have to say that really slowly.
Can't say that fast.
When I go to say that. Very, very slowly. I didn't know that this was a thing, but it's a thing going on right now. And it's a research grant that extends through October of 2023. And there you see the address to the website on your screen. And from the website, it says that many small and rural places are shrinking, but this is not the only story to tell. The website goes on to say that some communities continue to thrive even as they lose population because they adapt and they stay focused on quality of life, community service, and investments in the future. This is what we call rural smart shrinkage. So this is a grant that's going on, a research grant that's going on. And Elma, Iowa was a big part of it. So head to that website if you want to learn more about that. And here's just a tip about the Cityscape magazine. I mentioned that's a publication of the Iowa League of Cities. If your city is a member of the league, they're probably receiving a copy of Cityscape, either in paper or electronically. And maybe when they're done reading it at City Hall, maybe they'd send a copy on over to you.
Doesn't hurt to ask. All they can do is say no. It's my motto. So because this is a book on how to tell inspiring stories and sharing inspiring stories, as trustees and even as library workers, because those are also in our audience tonight, you have to think about what stories you want to tell. So you have to think about where you get those stories. And then you have to decide how you want to tell them, because a lot of times the impact of the story is in how it's told, not necessarily, it can be a little thing, but if you tell it right, it can have a bigger impact. And if you attended our webinar on storytelling the first time, and for the life of me right now, I cannot remember that book. Yeah, Bonnie.
The art of
The Art of Storytelling,
I think, was the title. That was
we
did that last fall.
Yep. And we went into a little more detail on the mechanics of telling that story during that one. But the biggest thing, I think, is just thinking about those interactions you have, especially as library staff, but even as trustees, because you interact with the public out in the community and you hear about they're telling their stories of the library, or their experiences at the library. Think about those stories, and as library staff, think about those interactions you have sometimes every day, such as that teenage boy who used to come into the library and get on the computer. You see him over and over and over again. But you don't always think about, how are we impacting him? That's not front in your mind because you're too busy doing other things. But think about those little interactions. Your patrons are telling you those stories, sometimes over and over, because sometimes the same patron comes in every morning and has to share it with you. But think about those, and then think about the best way to tell that story. The best way to get people to remember and have a bigger impact on somebody is to pull your heartstrings. And so think of a way to tell that story that does just exactly that. It just touches your soul, and it gives you those goosebumps when you hear it and think, wow, that's a cool story. So that's how you want to tell them and make sure that people kind of remember that that's there. Another really easy way to tell them, and I actually kind of stole this idea tonight, but is through the Libraries Transform. So we've talked about Libraries Transform before. It is a campaign through, is it the Public Library Association?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Part of the Public Library is a campaign of the Public Library Association that gets towards advocacy for libraries. And so as trustees, that's one of your 5 main roles. But they have these because statements that sometimes really hit home, depending on what your circumstances are. And there are many of them to choose from. So, it's not just about what libraries can do for patrons, but what we do for and with the people who come into our buildings is the important part of our jobs. So what does transformation mean in your library? How can Libraries Transform help you tell that story? Maybe it's makerspaces. Maybe it's your wireless hotspots if you adopted those during the pandemic. Maybe it's your curbside pickup. Maybe it's music gardens like Lorenz has. Maybe it's just the basic service of teaching a kid or an adult to read and giving that story time that helps foster that love of reading because somebody took the time to read to that child. Libraries Transform allows you to capture your library story using these attention-getting because statements that remind the public of the ever-increasing value of libraries in our changing world. So here's a video, and I know we've shared it before, but hopefully you'll bear with us. If you've never seen it, I think you're going to like it. If you have seen it before, I think you're going to like it again. This is a campaign that, and it's going to tell me if I get to the right slide. Oh, maybe not. It's, I can't remember what library it is. Oh, the Pickering Public Library put together this very simple campaign to and used their patrons to tell the story of how the library is important to them. And what a great thing to do. So as Bonnie brings this up, I actually emailed the head of my library's friends group, of which I'm on the board, and said, wouldn't this be a cool way to highlight the friends group? We could put it up, make one of these, put it on social media. We have a big all-member meeting coming up in June. It would be fun if we could get our act together and get it done fast enough. Maybe show it there. What a nice recruitment tool to use for a friends or a foundation group. So enjoy. And if you didn't want to take the time to make a video, just take pictures of your trustees holding some of these because statements and post them around your building, or of your patrons doing it. I'm sure patrons would love to do that for you. Kind of like the old read posters that were popular 5 to 10 years ago. Those have been around a long time, that they would get all kinds of popular personalities to do read posters. This is the new idea of read posters in my mind. But an easy way to help sell the value of the library and tell that story. I love it.
Do you remember some years ago, the Geek the Library campaign?
Yeah.
That was a fun one too. Well, now my sunshine is right smack there, so I can't
But it's
lean
sunshine
any farther to the left. Nancy, if you want to catch up with the commentary in chat, I'll queue up
we haven't
the rest
had anything new since the
Okay.
ILS stories and the ROI calculators on book receipts.
I'll queue up our slideshow again here.
So did that video help inspire any thoughts out there in library land? I personally think that would just be a fun way to do something. Not that I have the technology to put the whole video together. I'm not sure how to do that.
Well, we do have an idea for y'all coming up about how to use the because statements. Okay. With any kind of luck, I'll come back to the slides. And this time I did it better than last time. Okay. Here we are. So let us talk a bit about other ways to tell these stories. Statistics need telling for sure, but maybe they need telling in more creative ways. I know that Nancy mentioned last fall, we did an episode of the Boardroom where we talked about reports that are used in board meetings and sharing reports in board meetings. And I admitted to having kind of a love-hate relationship with reports. Not that we don't need numbers, we do. We absolutely need numbers, and we're gathering them all day long. I mean, you only have to look as far as the annual survey that the state library, right, brings to bear every October to know that you're certainly gathering, at least according to the annual survey, about 16 pages worth of statistics by the time you're all done. Door count, checkouts, books added and withdrawn, you know all of that. But when you're relaying those numbers, just relaying them without any basis of comparison, or just reading aloud raw numbers or presenting raw numbers on a page, without much comparison and certainly without many visual aids, I think can sometimes be a pretty tough way to help people understand. Unless you start to flip those reports and those statistics into a little something we like to call infographics. So do let us know if your libraries are making use of infographics. We know that there are some libraries that are doing wonderful things with infographics, and we have some good examples here.
Well, and Jillian just put something in chat that they created some to showcase some of their statistics and services and sent them to city council members. A number of them then responded saying they were not aware of how many services we provide. So the more creative, I agree, Jillian, the more creative you are in presenting that information, it's not a blah, 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 blah that we do. And they hear things or they see things that they wouldn't have seen otherwise. So congratulations, that's a great way to do it. What you see on your screen now is the Enrich Iowa report, which the state library has to give to legislators every year because Enrich Iowa is funded through the state budget. And Emily, our communications person at the state library, puts this together every year, and it is so much more exciting since she got on the job than it ever was before. It's colorful. She's got graphics. She's got photos that she includes that kind of tell the story in and of themselves. Obviously, this year we had just started Iowa Shares, which was a decade-long inclusion on our strategic plan, and we finally got it to fruition. So we were very excited about it. But she highlights specific numbers that you really want to highlight because those are the important ones. And, there's some text there to kind of tell that story in a different way. But what a nice way to do it. And it's nice and colorful. And then we also have an example, I believe, from the, oops, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say that you probably said this. This goes to all of the legislators as well every year, which is another really important reason why we want a publication to look this snappy, right? Because
Exactly.
it really is attention getting. And any of you are welcome. This is posted on the State Library's website. You'll see it linked in the footer of our landing page on our website, along with a report that looks similarly done as an infographic about the State Library's annual report. So think annual reports, think your audiences of town councils and supervisors, and think about, I love this idea, think about how you could create something like this that would have a county-wide impact by gathering all of these statistics that you would normally share with your county supervisors in the fall at budget presentation time. How about this coming year in 2021, you share with them a county-wide library infographic?
Well, and Bonnie's comment about sending it to the legislators too is they are so busy during session that they don't have time to read their email. So they have clerks who kind of spew it back to them verbally as they're in between meetings, et cetera, et cetera. So sending them something like this that's going to catch their interest definitely has a bigger impact. And that's why she tried to make it as visually impactful as possible. But same with city council members and county supervisors, these are all busy people, and you really want to get the message to them in the best way possible. So the one you're seeing right now, I believe, is from the Ida Grove Public Library, and it's their annual report. And I'm pretty sure this was done in Canva, which is a free, yes. You can also pay for it, but there's a free version that you can do some pretty amazing things with. And they give you templates. So if you're not creative, you can look like you're creative. It gives you that ability. I am not. I'm really good at copying people. I'm not creative on my own. But we don't, libraries, we call it sharing. We do not call it copying. We want to share with others and freely borrow. But they did a really nice job in making this very colorful and attention getting. And yet, without a whole lot of information on the page, they got their message across very, very well. So kudos to
narrative,
Ida Grove.
Right. Well, yeah. without a lot of narrative, without a lot of paragraphing or bullet pointing. Yeah. Yep. It's the graphs and the graphics that I think are so effective here. Well, we have a question coming up for you next that may take you aback. We hope so. And it may not be an easy one to answer just like that, but we do want you to talk about it. And the question is, we believe that your trusteeship, your experience on your public library board is also a story that needs telling. So what has your library trusteeship meant to you? Why did you first say yes to filling a seat on your local library board? And why do you continue to say, sure, reappoint me. Let's go around again. I like to think it's because of these incredibly super wonderful board education webinars that you get to go to thanks to the State Library. That's what I like to think. But if you have your other ideas, we would love to hear what your trusteeship means to you. And tell us if you're sharing that somehow around the community.
What a great recruitment tool for new board members.
What is the chat telling us?
Nothing yet. Oh, Kathy, I spelled your name wrong. I'm sorry. Kathy did put in something about how she'd love to see some training on how to develop good infographics on Iowa Learns, and I said we did do some in-person workshops. So maybe once we start doing them again, we can reenact those. They were popular.
You're in good company, Nancy, spelling my name with a K.
I know, sorry. I was trying to be quiet typing too, and I probably wasn't.
Yeah, Becky Heil and I have teamed up to do a series called Presentation Pointers. And one of those episodes is about using Canva to create infographics. We did those in several locations around the state, but that was pre-pandemic. So we haven't gotten back on the road to
and they were
repeat
kind
those.
Of hands-on. So
yeah, they were very much
better in person.
They were very much hands-on. Mm-hmm.
We did have some comments on this. So Mary Johnson from Albert City said that they make friends, they work well together, enjoy each other's company, and enjoy giving back to the community. So those are some of the comments that they had. The ability to support a hardworking library staff. Oh, John, that's a nice sentiment.
Oh, John, that is awesome, right?
And that does give you a good feeling. That's why I'm on the Friends board at my library is to help give back to that library. They work so hard and there's stuff their budget can't do. So it helps motivate you to do some fundraising to help support them.
Well, you be thinking about that and chime in. Like I said, it's not the easiest of questions maybe to answer right off the bat, but we hope there are answers for each of you about that. This is an idea for how to tell the collective board story, maybe. Tell us, if you would, if your library board and the work that you do is discoverable on your library's website. Now, this shows Grimes Public Library. And they've included not just a listing of the library board members, but they've included their photos as well, which I think is way cool. But having a listing of names and even add to that term expirations is super helpful. Maybe photos if you're so inclined. They were all good sports apparently at Grimes Library. Now, there's no need to include personal contact information. You don't have to feel like you have to throw up your personal email or your phone number. You don't do that. But just having this discoverable on your library's website I think is really important. And maybe some narrative that talks about the work that the library board does when it gets together. I know that so many libraries now are starting to post the library board agendas on their website. They're posting the library board minutes on the website. So all of that is helpful and a really nice digital way, virtual way to tell the library's story or the library board's story. I have one more challenge for you.
Well, wait, I want to add to this one. Hold on.
Yes.
So if you want to add something to the library's website about the boards and you want a way for the city citizens of your community to contact you, but don't want to put your own personal email up there, and like Bonnie said, I would not recommend that. The library can get an email for each of its trustees through the state library for free. So use that. And then once that term for that board member is up and you get a new one, that the original one can be terminated and we can open a new one for the new person. So just know that that's a service we provide, and that's a way that you can maybe provide some interaction with your community. That's not necessarily face-to-face when you go to the grocery store or to get gas. How you run into community members around town. But it is a nice way to publicize who's on the board, because you do have a lot of authority on that in that library. So
thank you for that.
Sure.
No, it's a great thought. Thank you for that reminder. I totally forgot that was an option. That's a really good option to steer people away from your home personal email.
Yeah,
as well, right?
Personal one up there.
Right. Don't put personal contact information up there. Here's my challenge to all of you. I know you're going to want to do it. I just know you are because you're all good sports who are here tonight. We just watched the Libraries Transform video with all of these happy patrons holding up a because statement about why they love their library. So my challenge to you is this. What if everybody on your library board wrote your own because statement, either filling in why your city library is important to you, or maybe filling in the blank with, I joined the library board because ... right? Put your words on giant foam core, and you could post them around the library. You could put your posters on social media. You could even do what these patrons at Pickering Public Library did, and that is videotape yourself with a jaunty musical accompaniment behind it, just with a because statement that talks about what your library board experience means to you.
You could even do, and I think we talked about this at one point, but I don't remember, for National Library Week, you could turn this on your patrons and see if your patrons, and have them do it on social media. I love my library because, and make it a different kind of because statement too. Again, builds that awareness of what the library support means to that person, and then they're able to share it. So,
but you
just
as
a different
library,
way of doing it.
Right, but you as library board members, you're also patrons. So you as library board members could get in on that action, and you could intersperse yourself as one of the people holding up a because statement. Yeah. You know, there is a week, a designated week during the year that is National Friends and Foundations and
it's like Friends of the Library Week.
Kind of like that. But I think maybe it's not specifically library boards, but it's volunteers, maybe National Library Volunteers Week or something like that. Anyway, there's a national week. That would be the way cool time for you.
And your librarian can find out when that is for you.
Yes, clearly your state library consultant doesn't know.
Not off the top of our heads, anyway.
Not off the top of my bean.
Chase's Book of Annual Events.
There you go.
When that is.
There you go. Get on it. Find out when that is. That would be an ideal time. Well, we have a few minutes remaining, so we just want to wrap up our conversation from tonight with
we have a comment. So Stacy, and Stacy, I'm not sure where you're from. We did this as a board and featured each board member and their favorite part of the library and posted on your Facebook page. Awesome. That is such a cool thing. Van Horn, thank you.
Van Horn.
What a cool thing to do.
We're going to go find this now, you guys. Yeah. Van Horn. We're going to look for it on your Facebook page.
That was very cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
It probably wasn't hard to do either. I'm sure every board member on your board of trustees was more than happy to do that for you.
It was pre-pandemic, as were so many things in our lives, right?
We all just existed during the pandemic.
If you guys really do this, I want one of you to hold up a sign that says, I love my experience on the library board because at every meeting they serve banana splits. I love my time on the library board because we get such insanely good webinars and board education coming at us from the state library. And
yeah, that's not going to happen.
It might.
It might.
With our few minutes.
Elkhorn did this as well and shared on social media featuring each trustee. See, social media, what a great way to use your social media.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
And it probably gained you more social media followers. So, because all the people who know those trustees then now joined your social media page.
And somebody said earlier, I don't know who, well, it's a good recruitment tool also for when there's board vacancies to be filled.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Exactly.
Well, we only have a few minutes remaining, so we have more questions for you to ponder. If not tonight, then ponder them at future board meetings and in your small groups. And here are some of our questions.
So what stories are you telling about library service when you're out and about or with your friends? How long have you been telling these stories? What effect are those stories having? Do you know? Do you ever hear that part of it after you've told the story? How do you know? And what could you do differently in telling those storytelling efforts and doing your storytelling efforts? Remember about the heartstrings. That's one thing you can do differently. So think about those things, like Bonnie said, as you hold your meetings and kind of discuss what you learn, because if not everybody on your trustees group is attending this webinar tonight, then go back and share what you learned with them and ask them these questions. We can also make these slides available to you too, if that helps you do that. So please reach out and ask us.
Yeah, absolutely. The slides will be available to you.
So here's just some quotes that came from the book. And I'm just going to read them quick because not all of you, in fact, I would say probably the large majority of you have not read this book, though I thoroughly encourage you to, because it will just deepen your love for libraries and what we do on a daily basis. So though books and libraries tend to be synonymous in people's minds, libraries are really about connections, a place where people connect with other people. That is very true. And thanks to libraries, we become lifelong learners. Talk about a long-term investment. The epitome of what makes library work worthwhile are the opportunities to help people when they are in the most in need. And we see that a lot. We have no choice but to face down the power, joy, and suffering that people bring into our space. That's the emotional labor of librarianship. And those of us who are really compassionate people feel that at the end of the day. You go home tired because you've lived everyone else's experiences during the course of your workday. I know I've worked in libraries for over 40 years and in public libraries, except for the last 8 that I've been at the state library. And just the experiences you have just make you feel like you're doing good in the world, or at least did me. And I worked in circulation mostly, so I did interact with the public on a daily basis. And I miss that now. That was a hard thing to give up when I came to work for the state, was those interactions I had with the public, because they really did have an impact on my life. So hopefully I had an impact on theirs too. Hopefully it was a two-way street. So we do have a list. Oh, sorry.
Hey, John, go ahead. If you had a comment to make, we'd love to hear you.
Well, I just wrote down a couple of questions on ARPA.
Okay, we'll get to them in just 1 second. We will get to them. Okay, I'm going to go fast through the rest of this.
Well, I'm just gonna skip right through this. These are additional resources that you can use to just kind of come back to this topic with some more information. And Nancy, shall we skip through this and allow time for ARPA questions?
Yes, I'm happy to do that. These are questions we ask every time we do these webinars, so you've seen them all before.
And you'll have an evaluation that you'll be able to fill out to tell us the answers to some of these. How are you going to use this information later? Before we turn to ARPA questions, let me just offer this last slide that tells you where we're headed in August. The topic in August is going to be, it's great to collaborate, and the material will be based on a book titled Reimagining Collaboration. So that's where we're headed in August. And John, you're welcome to fire up with your ARPA questions.
One, we're in the process of updating our website to make it more accessible to people. Currently, most of us don't feel like it's really very effective in reaching out to people. And then the second question, would ARPA funds be good for reaching out to the Spanish community?
Yes, 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 and yes. I think both of them. Making your website more accessible, either via being device oriented, so you can do it on a phone or on a tablet, or making it accessible to those people in the community that have seeing disorders and that kind of thing. There's a whole website accessibility thing, and the Iowa Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped can help you with that. We've actually been doing webinars with them lately, and I believe there's one coming up about website accessibility. I don't think it's passed yet, but you could check out Iowa Learns for that and get more information. But yes, that would fall under the digital inclusion and spreading that digital inclusion. So that definitely does. The reaching out to the Spanish speaking community, it would depend on how you wanted to do it, but I think, yes, you could make a case for that. You'd almost have to use technology to do it, I think, but yeah, that should be too, because again, it's reaching out and trying to get those people who don't have access, giving them access. Good questions. Anybody else have any questions? You can put them in chat. You can speak up. I'm happy to answer anything. And I know there's people on here tonight who heard me this afternoon. So again, just get creative with these funds. Look around your library and see what's needs updating. I would swear if your computers are more than 4 years old, you need to buy new ones. So now's a good opportunity to do that and not have to use your own budget to do that. Oh, Chris, that's nice. She wants to thank her board members who came to listen tonight. And we want to thank them too. We're happy all of you are here. And we hope it was worth taking time out of your evening. So thanks, everybody. If you have questions, like Bonnie said, we'll stick around for a little while. However, we do have to watch This Is Us at 9 o'clock. So we're not going to stick around that long.
We won't still be here at 9 o'clock because the season finale of This Is Us is on. And that's really must-see TV.
And Bonnie and I are big fans. We text each other during the show.
Isn't that odd?
You'd think at the end of the day, we would want to leave each other alone.
It just means we need hobbies.
Yes, it does.
I should fold us in on that text chat. So
oh, okay.
It's popular around here too.
This Is Us is popular at your house?
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Not with me so much, but.
Yes, thank you, Nancy and Jay, for hanging in, and for all of you in all of these libraries represented across the state. We so appreciate you being here and for your great commentary. And we hope you'll come back again in August when we'll talk about collaboration ideas based on the book Reimagining Collaboration. So until then, we'll hang out a little while longer if other ARPA questions occur to you. Otherwise, you're free to log out and have a late supper and go tune into This Is Us, because this is the big wedding episode, you know.
Do you want me to stop recording? Yes.
Yeah, maybe so. I hope